exchanged, and in favor of doing them all bodily harm, walked away. For one thing, he didn't want to ruin Sam and Bria's reception by getting into a knockdown, drag-out brawl. And for another, he made sure he never raised a fist in anger to anyone for any reason. He'd been down that road once, when he was a teenager, and the results had damned near ruined his life. He wasn't going to risk going down it again. "Ryder?" Turning at the sound of the familiar female voice, he watched the pretty blonde-haired woman with the bluest eyes he'd ever seen walk toward him. He and Summer had been best friends for the past few years, and although any man would be lucky to call her his woman, Ryder had avoided thinking of her as anything but his friend. Anything more between them, and he would feel obligated to tell her the reason he had finished growing up at the Last Chance Ranch. That was something he didn't care to share with anyone, and why he didn't intend to enter into a serious relationship with any woman. Some things were just better left buried in the past. Besides, he didn't want to take the chance of losing the easygoing friendship they'd forged by becoming romantically involved with her. He suspected she felt the same way. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her expression reflecting her concern. Letting go of his anger, Ryder shook his head as he smiled at the petite woman standing next to him. "No, I just got tired of listening to my brother's bull." She smiled wistfully. "You're lucky. At least you have brothers to irritate you. I've never had that problem." Ryder felt as guilty as hell. As aggravating as his foster brothers could be at times, there wasn't a doubt in his mind they would all be there for him no matter what, the same as he would be for all of them. They meant the world to him, and there wasn't a day that went by that he didn't thank the good Lord above that he had them in his life. But Summer had never had anything like that. Over the course of their friendship, he'd learned she was the only child of an older couple who, during her senior year in college, had been killed in the small plane her father owned. With their deaths, she'd been left with no family at all. "Yeah, they sure can be a thorn in my side sometimes." As the last traces of his anger dissipated, he grinned. "But I guess after all these years, I don't have any other choice but to keep them." She laughed. "Good idea, cowboy. But seriously, your family is great. I know some of your brothers from seeing them compete at the rodeos we've worked, but I've never met Sam's wife and her sister. They're very nice, and I think it's wonderful that you've all stayed so close over the years." When Ryder noticed Nate eyeing Summer like a fox sizing up an unguarded henhouse, he shot his brother a warning glare, then asked, "Have you had a chance to dance yet?" "Only the line dances," she answered, glancing at the dance floor Sam had his hired hands construct in one of the barns for the celebration. "I thought I saw Sam's head wrangler ask you to dance a little earlier," he said, frowning. "I suppose he was nice enough," she replied, shrugging one slender shoulder. "But I wasn't in the mood to dance then." "Well, if you don't mind a cowboy with two left feet and the worst sense of rhythm this side of the Mississippi, I'd be honored to stand in one spot with you and sway in time to the music," he offered. Her eyes filled with humor. "I thought all Texas cowboys took pride in sashaying around the dance floor doing the two-step or the stroll." "You know me better than that, darling." As the band started playing a slow, dreamy country tune, he shook his head in mock disgust and placed his hand to her back, guiding her out onto the dance floor. "This is one Texan who doesn't sashay, prance, or shimmy anywhere, anytime, ever." "I beg to differ with you," she murmured, placing her hands on his biceps when he rested his at her trim waist. "I've seen you when you're dancing with a 2,000-pound bull. You have some pretty smooth moves, cowboy." "That's because it's my job." He shrugged and tried to ignore the warmth of her soft palms burning his skin through the fabric of his chambray shirt. "If I don't get those old bulls to dance with me, a bull rider gets run over." "Don't you have a degree in ranch management?" she asked. "I would have thought you'd be content to stay home and run your ranch instead of traveling around the country playing chicken with a bulldozer on hooves." "Yup, I'm a proud graduate of Texas A&M. He put himself between her and a couple enthusiastically two-stepping their way around the dance floor in an effort to keep them from bumping into her. "But I have a good, reliable foreman I pay quite well to check in with me several times a day. He gives me a full report on how things are going. I tell him what I want done, and he sees that it's taken care of. That frees